Welcome to today's Business Spotlight. I'm your host, Todd Rodden. I'm a certified business and executive coach. I own Aspire Action Coach based here in Southwest Ohio. You're going to love this episode today. Really an entrepreneur on the move, actually gaining a lot of profile. We're thrilled to have Luke Lloyd, who's the CEO and president of Lloyd Financial Group, and also very frequently a guest commentator on Fox Business News. So if you haven't seen him, you're probably going to see him in the near future as you pay attention to your own financial planning. If you're new to the series, we're thrilled to have you join us. We encourage you to hit the subscribe button so you can receive future messages like all the insights you're going to gain from Luke Lloyd today. So without further ado, Luke Lloyd, welcome to the Business Spotlight. We're thrilled to have you. Take a second, if you could, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background and why financial advisory, financial service.
Well, thanks for having me, Todd. It was nice meeting you finally in person a few weeks back or a week ago, going to grab lunch. I know we're around the Cincinnati area, both of us, and I just am kind of new down here, so I'm making new friends, and you're now one of my new friends, so that's awesome. But look, my background, I could go a lot of different directions here. I guess the best way to sum up where I come from, where I've been, and where I'm going is I come from small town Ohio, actually on the other tri-state area of Cincinnati. So I'm on the southeast. I grew up southeast Ohio, right across from Wheeling, West Virginia, a little small town called Martins Ferry, Ohio. And that town was very blue collar coal mine steel mills. And my entire life, a lot of the coal mines and steel mills were shutting down. So jobs were leaving the area, and the only people really making any money was the gas and oil boom with the shale when they were building wells and digging down. So if you owned land, you were doing well. If not, everything else was kind of going downhill. So no one really had any money growing up, and that kind of inspired me to study money. And I was very competitive. My father raised me to try to be the best in school, to try to be the best when it comes to sports. I was decently a good pitcher in high school. I was a knuckleball pitcher, but I could never throw a 100-mile-per-hour fastball, right? So, everyone said, Luke, you're not going to be valedictorian because you don't have what it takes to get straight A's and become valedictorian. Well, next thing you know, I became valedictorian. Everyone's like, Luke, you're not going to be able to pitch in college because you're not that good of a pitcher. You can't throw a 95-mile-per-hour fastball, but I did have a lot of junk. So I ended up playing college baseball. So my entire life, I've always been the underdog, and everyone's kind of always tried to bet against me. And I like that drive and I like that competition. So going into college, I was the nerd that joined student body, Senate, and I was the president of the student body, and that allowed me to network with all the board of trustees. Being able to network with all those big wigs, big donors and universities, a lot of successful business guys. One of the guys was Nick Diogen, who's editor-in-chief of CNBC. He's like, Luke, if you ever need an internship, let me know. I'd be glad to help you out. Next thing you know, junior year comes around. Um, I was trying to build like an algorithmic, trading software. I've always been entrepreneurial in that kind of way, but that internship is really the spark of my career, going down the path I'm on now. At CNBC, I was the annoying intern that jumped in front of people, shake people's hands, and take them out to dinner, drinks, or cigars. So I was trying to, build up my Rolodex then. That's actually where I met my ex-boss, Mark Tepper. I worked with them for 7 years in Cleveland. 28 years old now. So right after college, joined Mark for 7 years, learned the ins and outs of the business in the industry. And there comes a point when you're getting married, you're thinking about kids, and you're 28, and you're like, you know what? If I don't jump ship now and try to bet on myself, I'll probably never do this because the longer you wait, the harder it becomes. You're making more money, you have more risk, you have more family risk to leave. So I'm like, this is the time in my life to bet on myself. It's going to be a grind for probably at least a decade before I even feel somewhat comfortable, but it's going to be a lot of fun and it's going to be purpose filled. And that's the key in life right now. I see a lot of people who don't have much of a purpose. And that's something I'm trying to incorporate into all my financial planning for clients is help them create purpose, especially when it comes to retirement.
Thanks for that great background. Love that small town. Then great internship, and then taking the ball and running from there, and then now going out on your own. So, kind of building upon that, tell us maybe who are kind of ideal customers for you at Lloyd Financial Group. So, if someone's listening, they know, hey, I should reach out.
So the biggest thing for me is I approach this industry a little differently than a lot of people play this game. And what I mean by that is everyone's very black and white, and they are just so textbook when it comes to what they're putting into the financial plans or how they're managing the investments. For us, what we're trying to do is not only look at American history and say, oh, in American history, the stock market only goes up. So you just throw your money in the S&P 500, you'll be totally fine. Or, using American history to predict inflation rates or tax rates. We actually take a bigger, broader look at cycles throughout the world history. And that kind of comes back to one of my, favorite writers out there and kind of philosophers in business, and that's Ray Dalio, talking about the changing, world order, talking about how Dutch Empire, Roman Empire, British Empire, how these all kind of worked and the economics behind it. So I know that's a very high level kind of way to think about how we approach things for our clients, but we do try to take not only previous historical history, we're trying to look at the future to see how we can play the tax game, how we can play the retirement game. Our 25, 30-year-old clients, how should they be investing if we're thinking about 40 or 50-year time horizons? It's not just throwing money at the wall. A lot of cookie cutter advisors will just, have every client do the same exact thing. We try to have as much of a customized approach as possible, especially for most of our clients being blue collar, hardworking, the electricians, the carpenters, or someone that's packed away in a 401k for 40 years, the millionaire next door kind of mentality, or the farmer that I'm talking to a lot. These hardworking blue collar types of people, I think, care about having a fighter in the corner every single day. That's not just going to be on the golf course, sitting back and smoking a cigar and drinking a bourbon on the golf course 5 days out of the week. I'm in the office nonstop trying to be that fighter. And again, being an underdog my entire life, I try to bring that kind of scrappiness for my clients.
I love it. Okay. You're building upon kind of legacy from your upbringing and where you grew up, right? Kind of still kind of bringing great expertise and insights to folks who kind of match kind of where you grew up with, as you said, blue collar background.
I'm trying to bring Main Street to Wall Street or Wall Street to Main Street. That's really the philosophy behind it.
Okay. Because you've been, you were in a firm, and now you've moved out on your own. As you've navigated through that, what have been some of the keys to growth you've seen? Some of the marketing or outreach strategies that have borne the most fruit.
So I always go back to the saying, don't recreate the wheel or don't fix something that's not broke. So one of the things I witnessed in my previous firm, and Mark Tepper being one of my mentors for so long, I mean, he knows how to market. He knows how to grow a business. And I saw that for 6, 7 years. I think they probably 5X'd in size roughly in those 7 years. So I saw a lot of growth. And basically, I'm taking a lot of the things I learned there and just basically trying to apply it to my business. Now, what I will say is I truly do believe that the future is somewhat AI and so more tech focused than it has been. So this industry, I don't think you can just be the advisor that has great communication, not only performs well, not only is that hard worker. I think that clients want more of the technology side. But when it comes to actually growing the business, the biggest thing that's been helpful for me is really the Fox Business and Fox News and RFD TV shows I do. I think that exposure allows me just to get my voice out there in my opinions. And some people don't like my opinions, but some people I think like my opinions. And that's the kind of the risk you take is when you get out there and outspoken. Some people will never work with you because they just don't like what you have to say. That's the risk you take. There's some people that resonate maybe with some of the values that share with you. And the reason they want to work with you is because they like and trust you. And at the end of the day, it's hard to build likability and trust through a TV screen. So that's why it's not as quick and easy as some people believe it to be when you go on TV. And it takes years upon years to start getting that exposure. But that's been huge for the foundation of my business to grow it. Now, the question becomes, as any business owner is like, okay, you start having discretionary money, to throw around a little bit. What's the new marketing areas, right? So I'm getting involved with local cities, teaching some seminars to local community members, whether it's Social Security or retirement seminars. I'm doing some Facebook and Google stuff when it comes to advertising on there. Pumping some money behind those kind of ventures to try to get out there from a social media side of the equation. Then LinkedIn's actually been huge for me. I mean, I'm up to 26, I think, thousand followers on LinkedIn, and that kind of funnels into the media. So I didn't mention my newsletter. I have a newsletter every single morning called the LFG Daily. It's up to about 3,000 subscribers. Picked up steam really quickly, actually, as the business started growing. That's been huge too because it's a funnel. It's a huge circle where the media funnels the newsletter funnels like this other social medias. LinkedIn also funnels the newsletter. So like it kind of all works in circle together to be able to create this kind of content machine that, over time hopefully builds that likability and trust if someone's reading your stuff every morning. I would say someone doesn't work with you until they see you or at least read some of your stuff or whatever it be, a touch point at least probably 40 or 50 times. That's how you build that likability and trust.
And thanks for sharing a great example to our listeners. I hope they took notes there around you've got multiple spokes to the wheel, right? That build kind of your awareness, build your following, right? And then that builds kind of your ongoing customer base, but also being bold, like you said, in your when you're on the Fox Business News and the other public shows of don't be milk toast, man. Say what you think. Be bold, right? Yeah, and it may some folks may not. It may not be for them, but it's going to really tie and make connections with some folks where you can build deeper relationships.
Well, that's exactly right, man. It's like, sometimes you see people that are afraid to speak their voice or afraid they're going to get judged. I go in with the mentality of, hey, I'm not going to let anything influence my mindset of what I'm going to say. I'm going to say what I truly think. One day I might say something gets me flack or whatever, canceled. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I always promised myself that I was going to be true to myself and I was going to be, um, making sure that I wasn't just trying to fit a narrative in any kind of way. So yeah, I think that's extremely important. And at the same time, when you're out there on the media, I think it's really important to, try to use that to open up other doors. One of the things I'm trying to do is get involved in the speaking scene. I'm getting invited to Money Show or there's other kind of conferences they're trying to get me to come speak. So the media side opens up even other doors kind of that gets you in there. The key is you got to run with those doors and you got to make sure you suck it up and take the flight that you don't want to take or the time out of your week to go to someplace you don't want to go. Like when the door opens, you got to run through it. That's the biggest thing I've learned in my career so far. It's doors usually open up. The problem is most people don't see the door open up, or they also don't run through it quick enough.
Building upon that, what is so far in that journey? What's been a key challenge that you had that you overcame, and what did you learn from that?
Yeah, great question. So this industry, the more gray hairs you have, it's better. You're better off. Just because people, especially when you're 65, like most of my clients are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s, right? Um, when you have a little bit of gray hair and you've done this for 10, 20, 30 years, it's a lot easier to build a practice, build a business, build a book of business, whatever it is. And so the first few years was just kind of tougher because, here's a kid out of college. Why would you want to work with a, 23, 24-year old that, has only been doing this for a few years, and you have $2 million that you've packed away and that's your life savings? Why would you trust someone like that, right? That was the initial kind of philosophy, I think, that I came in with this industry. Now, the difference is being young is also a superpower. And now that I'm in my late 20s, I think it's even more of a superpower because I've been doing this now for almost a decade. And I was trading stocks at 14. I've been around this for over a decade, really, but this actual industry for about a decade now. Um, I'm going to be around for the next 40 years, hopefully. As long as I don't get hit by a bus down the street or something crazy happens, I'm hopefully going to be around for 40 more years. So all my clients that are 50 right now, I'm basically going to see them all the way through retirement. And then I'm going to even help out their kids probably, right? So like I'm just saying, I'm going to be around this game for such a long time. And now that I've been doing this almost a decade, I've got that experience. So I've called this almost the sweet spot, your late 20s to your late 30s is your sweet spot for this industry. You don't have necessarily the gray hair, even though I'm starting to get gray hair, but you also have the experience. Now you're also going to have the longevity to make sure you see your clients through. So that's kind of the initial thing I dealt with, and how I dealt with it was I just kind of got rid of that brain trash and turned a negative almost into a positive and be like, yeah, I am kind of young, but I'm going to be here for a very long time. I'm going to be your fighter for the next 40 years. I mean, I'm not the 65-year-old that's about to kick the can and, on the golf course, again, because I don't really want to work day in, day out anymore because I'm already comfortable. I think being comfortable is one of the biggest hurdles that people deal with in this world is, especially in the corporate world. And I felt myself falling into it, is you start making a good amount of money. You start, feeling trapped, and you feel like, why would I jump ship because I am so comfortable? There's a lot of risk to that. When you're uncomfortable and you're building a business and you're not paying yourself, the goal is not to pay myself for 10 years. It's to invest every single dollar back into the business, hiring better software, better products for clients, essentially. When you have that mentality, again, you're going to be the hardest worker in the room at all times, basically, right? So that's the biggest thing I try to get across to my clients is, I'm going to be here for 40 years and I'm going to be fighting for you every day because I have to, because it literally, you are the core of this business and I'm going to be that fighter, right?
Building upon that, what's your long-term vision then? If you talk, hey, you got a 40-year horizon, right? But what, I mean, what's your dream? You look down the road, maybe it's 10, 20 years, a little bit closer than that. You say, hey, this is what I dream this is going to look like.
The biggest thing is, honestly, I want this to be this business, and the reason I named it Lloyd Financial Group, most people would be like, he's trying to name it after himself. He's got an ego. That's not the reason I named it Lloyd Financial Group. The reason I named it Lloyd was really because of my father. Okay, and I think this quick story goes into my vision. My father worked for a bank. He was a programmer back in the 80s. Before it was cool to be a programmer, he was on the computers, taking them apart, putting them together. Never had a bachelor's education. He had an associate's degree, and he worked his way up from programmer in the late 80s to CIO, Chief Information Officer. I wish it was investment officer now with what I do, but Chief Information Officer at a small regional bank where I grew up. And just to put the story real quick, my father got cancer at a pretty young age, went through a lot with his health with that. Basically got pushed out of the bank he worked so hard for 30 years, almost 30 years, or it was 30 years. And he said to me, basically when I was 16 years old at the time, right before college, he's like, Luke, you either work for the man or you are the man. And that put something in me. That was really the point. I knew one day I want to own my own business. Okay. So using that story with Lloyd in the background, my father kind of in the background, he's still alive. We talk almost every day. Thankfully, his health is very good now. Been in remission for years. But the reason why Lloyd is kind of my father, I believe, is kind of the baseline to this. Where can we go from here? How can I build a family legacy? How can I get my parents when they are in retirement age? They're about to be in their 60s. How can I get them to even come work with me in the business in the retirement years and we can build this together, right? How do I get my wife involved? How do I get my maybe cousin who interned with me this summer? He's graduating in college here in March, all right, May of this year. How can I get him involved? Like, how can I build this bigger than just myself to really help employ, build a business with family, see how far we can go? I mean, that's the thing is, you have to have yearly short-term projections and you have to make sure you hit those. But if I'm thinking again on a 40-year time horizon, being 28, that'll put me at 68 years old. I mean, as you know, in business, it's exponential, right? So the more clients you have, usually the more clients you get, because if you do well for them, they're going to be talking, they're going to be hopefully giving you referrals. So my point is if I look 10 years down the road, the goal is to be managing probably close to $1 billion in assets. It's a big goal to have. But if I achieve that within 10 years, $1 billion, why can't I be at, 20 billion 40 years down the road, right? Or 50 billion? Why can't I be the next Fisher? There'll come a point when I have kids, and that's hopefully in the cards for the next year. But there'll come a point when my mindset probably changes because I want to spend maybe more time with my kids and coach their baseball teams or football team, whatever it be, right? So, the right now being married and me and her and just being that grind mode, I'm like, why put a limit on my success? But again, this will change on a yearly basis. Big things, life changes come up. Business, economy, markets change. So you got to evolve with the ever changing information. But there's really no number I have for the future. It's more of how can I benefit and help out the people who have helped me out the most as I build Lloyd Financial Group, like my parents, like getting them on the medical insurance before they're 65, right? That's kind of the mindset too. So if I employ them, they get medical insurance before they get Medicare age, right? So like there's all these different thoughts process of trying to incorporate family into this.
When you talk about you love that vision, right? And dream big, but also you're bringing others along with you, right? You talked about how the dream of having other family members actively part of the business. So kind of building upon that, how do you think about, building your team where you're at, and also where you're at right now, you also you leverage a lot of partnerships, or look to do that going forward. So how do you build those kind of relationships?
Great
What do you
question.
look for?
So my
What do you
motto
look
is
for?
you hit it on dream bigger, sleep better. That's my motto. So when I think about my clients, I want my clients to dream bigger than they ever have. Dream big about what their bucket list items are, but I also want them to sleep at night. Have the anxiety gone of financial stress and have me take on the. I always say my clients sleep at night, so I don't sleep at night, or I don't sleep at night, so my clients can sleep at night. That's kind of my mentality. But when it comes to actually building the business, it's really to help build out the ancillary areas to calm clients' anxiety. So instead of me wearing all the hats, as quick as possible, I'm trying to find the correct best partners in each slot possible. So the way I look at myself is I'm a quarterback. Okay. The quarterback might have a running back, wide receiver, offensive line. They have their team around them. So I need four pillars basically filled. Okay. I need financial planning, tax planning, investments, and estate planning. Those four pillars basically make you a one-stop shop place for your clients, for every single need your clients have when it comes to a financial standpoint. So, CFP, CPA, CFA, JD essentially is what you need. So basically, I built the firm to where if I don't have them personally in-house, I have a partnership with one of those areas that is connected to LFG, just not on a W-2 payroll or anything like that, right? More like a 1099 contracting position that is helping out my clients. So right now, it's me with building the financial plans. I've had almost, like I said, 8 years of experience building financial plans. We're looking at I have a designation called CRPC. I'm being, you'd think me being valedictorian and a nerd, I care more about letters. I actually hate letters behind people's names. Some of the people I've met that have the most letters are actually the dumbest ones in the room, in my opinion. I'm not saying I'm smart or anything, but my point is, I do have a charter retirement planning counselor license, or what's it called? Letters behind my name. So I'm building the financial plans. My CIO, who was my first hire, is a guy who's been doing managing the portfolio for 30 plus years. Actually, already built a firm, already sold a firm, has a ton of experience managing money. He's my CFA that's doing the investments. I have a CPA partnership that does all my clients' tax returns every single year, also helps the business owner clients and higher net worth clients think about tax optimization when it comes to charitable tax credits or opportunity zones or unique things that we can do to try to minimize that tax code Roth conversions for a lot of retiree clients. And then I have a JD partnership as well that's helping all my clients from an estate planning standpoint: wills, trust, power of attorneys, maybe a special needs trust if you have a child with special needs, maybe a spendthrift trust if you don't trust a child inheriting a lot of money. So those pillars have all been built out. Two pillars are in house. Two pillars are kind of partnered with. The goal is over the next year or two, whenever I makes sense for clients and for the business, is to start incorporating all of those pillars in house. So eventually, the goal is here in about 2 to 3 years probably to have all four pillars in house at LFG.
You have this map in your mind, you know where you're going, and you're already making those steps to make it happen. So, as we get close to wrapping up here, Luke, did the summarize, and you shared several key points along our discussion here. But what do you summarize? Hey, these have been my keys to success. Things that are kind of your pillars that you'd want to share with other entrepreneurs or maybe starting their journey as well.
My keys to success, and I don't think this is just specific to my industry. I think this is probably for business as a whole. Persistency, consistency, and persistency. I'll group that into one. Okay, just showing up every single day. It's very easy when you're on your own time to not show up, or to work from home because it's a holiday, or maybe it's I'll take an hour off early because no one's really paying attention to what I'm doing and I don't have anything really I need to be doing. That will get you in trouble. Showing up every single day, when it's a holiday or not, when it's the day before a holiday, not taking hours off, treating yourself like you would as an employee of another firm, as a business owner, I think is very, very important. So blocking your calendar every single morning or every single day to make sure that you are staying true to what you say you're going to do, whether it's making the calls you don't want to make. Maybe it's cold calling some institutions or whatever it be. You're cold calling a client. I don't cold call retail clients. I have cold called institutional money managers to get ingrained with them. So maybe those are examples. People don't like making cold calls, but blocking it off in your calendar and staying consistent and persistent, I think is important. And then the second thing is, your client is the foundation. I think having that mindset that, no matter if your client's a small client, big client, you like them and you don't like them. You should like all clients. Whatever it is, though, you know, you treat them all the same. You treat them all with an extreme amount of communication. You treat them all like almost like their family. That's kind of how I kind of approach my business. Is all my clients are family, right? So that I kind of pride myself on. One of the things I have on my website is I'm only a text message away from all my clients. So all my clients can shoot me a text whenever they want. And if they have a quick financial question or deep financial questions, they know they can contact me at any point in time. Now, that means my phone's usually blowing up a lot more than other people's phones. I probably do need two phones at this point, but I am very quick to respond. So I think communication with clients in any business is the most important thing. All my clients got a holiday card this year. All my clients are getting birthday cards for the next year. I have my birthdays in the CRM that they are automatically getting shipped a birthday gift, every single year. So my point is those small touch points, quarterly review meetings. I don't believe in one meeting a year. Like if some advisors are only meet with the clients once a year. I'm doing quarterly every 3 months, direct meetings with them to go over investment performance. A lot of my clients are texting me basically on a weekly basis at this point. A lot of my clients love getting a birthday card or a holiday card. So those small things, even handwritten letters, go far. That's the most important thing is your clients are number one, treat them all as number one. And I don't see how your business can really fail. Of course, it comes down to performance. Of course, it comes down to other things you do to actually add value. But again, through the tough times, because you're not going to kill it every single year. I'm going to try to kill it every year. I'm going to be the hardest worker in the room. But there's going to be one year when the market's up 15% and we're up 12%. We underperform by 3% because we actively pick stocks. We actively manage the investments, right? When that one year happens and you're down 3% more than the market, you want your clients to say, Luke, you've been my fighter and you've been talking me through everything. I'm sticking with you here, right? You don't want to be that. You don't want to just be performance based and then leave because you underperform one year. So I think that applies to all businesses. I'm just using mine as an example there.
So I'm kind of like in this discussion. So as we look forward, what are the best ways for folks to stay connected with you, to learn more? You mentioned some of the following you've been building, but maybe you kind of share some of the contact info.
Yeah, the best way would be my website because it's basically got everything else you need on there. So it's www.lloydfg.com. So two L's, OYDFG.com. You can see it, I think, up here. Or if you are interested in the financial planning portion of if you're maybe you're a business owner and you're looking to maybe an exit strategy, valuation, or things like that, I think you even help with this a lot too. Maybe this is where me and you can actually work together a lot too. But you can go to lfgplan.com as well. It's another domain that leads to another part of my website. But the first thing you see when you go to my website is a pop-up of a nice looking picture of me with my arms crossed. And it has a way for you to subscribe to my newsletter. So usually the best way to stay in touch is go to my website, lloydfg.com, subscribe to the newsletter. You'll get my content Monday through Friday, every single day at 8 a.m. Me and my CIO write it every single morning. That's a good way for you to get in my brain. That's the key is I want people to get inside my brain how I'm thinking about it. And if we align with values and how we think about the world, then usually makes sense for us to do something together.
All right. So encourage our listeners to check out the show notes. You'll have all that information and to go to the website and subscribe to the newsletter. So as we wrap up, Luke, always curious, what are you inspired by? You're a high energy guy. All right. I'm curious, what are the things that really motivate and drive you? What are you inspired by today?
Yeah. So seriously, and I think about I'm in my brain too much. I think I'm going crazy sometimes, but purpose. It comes back down to purpose for me. All the decisions I made over the past year and a half, I call it my midlife crisis. Hopefully I live past 56, but that'd be half of 56 is 28. So but I call it my quarter life or midlife crisis, whatever you want to call it. But I felt myself again going down a path of doing the same thing day in day out and just feeling trapped and not making the important decisions in life. For example, I was dating my girlfriend at the time for like 3 years. I'm like, why am I not getting married? I know she's the one. What's stopping me from getting married? Why am I not having kids? I'm now in my late 20s. We're not getting younger. Why am I not thinking about having kids? Oh, okay, I'm thinking about having kids and marrying my wife. Why don't I start the business I've always dreamed about doing now that I understand how this world works? And now that I know how business works, the ins and outs. So all those kind of life decisions created purpose for me. So what drives me is more purpose. And I think building a business is so much fun and competitive. It comes back to my underdog story, throwing the knuckleballs. I've always had to be unique in my life. I've always had to adapt and try to be a little different to try to get ahead. And that's purposeful. Building your dream in a business is like, having a kid almost. I have a corgi, a dog. We're thinking about having kids, like I said, next year. But the business is another kid. I'm growing it. I'm being there through thick and thin. Like, it's like having another entity or baby you're taking care of. And that is so purposeful. So, I know a lot of people watching here are already business owners, so they feel what I'm talking about here. But if you're not a business owner, it is a different kind of feeling. Or aren't a business owner, it is a different kind of feeling out there. And younger generations, I don't know who the age groups of who's watching this, but a lot of younger generations. I'm not saying you have to get married or you have to have kids or you have to start a business to have purpose. There's a lot of other ways to find purpose. But one of the biggest, I think, reason we have some mental health issues out there, or some of the reasons why people are just dopamine fatigued because they're scrolling on their phone all the time is because lack of purpose. The whole saying, younger generation says, "Go touch grass." I think we need to go touch grass a little bit more and get outside and just slow down to speed up. That's a good saying I always say too. Is sometimes in life you have to slow down to speed up.
All right. Great insights, right? For someone who's still relatively young, you've had tremendous learnings. You build that energy every day and continue to grow. So exciting things on the horizon for Luke Lloyd and Lloyd Financial Group. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to rocking and rolling together.
All right. And to our viewers, we're thrilled to have you join us today as well. We encourage you to hit the like button. That helps us share the message even more broadly. And again, as we mentioned, if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you can receive future inspiring messages like you heard from Luke Lloyd today. And with that, hope you all have a terrific day.